A rat ate my family's manifest. I can do something about that. Subtitle, could have been the title for this, is you hear this a lot. I have their ship manifest, but they aren't on it. I have 5 YouTube videos involving Ellis Island, including a short history of the immigration station and running an Ellis Island simulation. Here I am dressed for the part. The immigration station opened in 1892. Because of a fire in 1897 and construction of the new structure, the operation moved to Manhattan through 1902. The heyday of this New York station was 1892 to 1924. Things changed in the 1920s. American consulates overseas assumed many Ellis Island immigration functions. Then quotas became fashionable in the 1920s, reducing immigrants from basically Southern and Eastern Europe. That's where the main areas that went through Ellis Island. After 1924, Ellis Island mainly used for some nationalities, problem cases, military uses, and as an alien detention center. I have a YouTube video on a number of strategies for finding immigrants on the Ellis Island manifests that I encourage all my viewers to see. But I have more to tell you, and an interesting search example not included in that video, thus the reason for this video, this additional video. So that online previous YouTube video concentrated on the SS Cecilia arriving May 23, 1907. You can see that this manifest is degraded, it's damaged. There's a 38-year-old there, David Hoffner, and a 12-year-old Meyer Schachter. And in that video, I showed 2 strategies that put Meyer on this ship and 3 more strategies that placed him on that specific sheet and line. In addition, I showed that David had an additional 2 strategies to find his ship, sheet, and line. Hey, if I could do this for a degraded manifest, I could do it for mistranscribed names, mangled names, etc. So there's a number of techniques you can use to find people on the manifest aside from the specific name on the manifest. There are missing manifests, especially in cabin class 1897 to 1903. I quote from Marion Smith that what is clear is that the majority of these cabin class lists for those years were not maintained at the immigration station and were not microfilmed. This is not a myth. It is a demonstrable fact. Of course, my people aren't going to come in anything except third class and steerage. So that previous YouTube did not discuss using children in the family to find the family's manifest. So I want to show you a case study. See a lot of barrels on a dock. And then about 2 decades ago, on one of the websites I subscribed to, there was this request. I am researching my pitless side of the family. I am in possession of the ship's manifest on which they sailed, the Mauritania from Cherbourg to New York, leaving May 5, 1922, arriving May 12, 1922. The manifest lists several of the relatives with whom they traveled, the Cheskis, but does not list their names, Pearl, Abe, Morris, and Lillian Pitler. These records laid in barrels on the docks for years, and rats got into them. My fear is that this particular section of the manifest is permanently lost. I have tried many searches, but have not found their names. Any ideas for future searching? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Because when you see something like this, you wonder what the sources are for the researcher to make these sorts of statements. Okay, what could I do? Well, first, find and check the ship manifest to see what shape it's in. Is it really degraded? Can I use my tools? No, it looks pretty darn good. Looks in great shape. Also, it's typed. No problem with reading handwriting. We blow it up. It's on sheet C3. And if we keep looking down, we find people that they traveled. The Cheskis. Now notice that there's a different spelling there. It took me a while to find this. And I'm doing this without actually contacting the original poster. Now that may seem like a small detail, but all details are important. The assumptions you make that you are not aware of are going to eventually trip you up. Now, what I did when I finally solved this problem was I wrote an email, a small essay, to the group that originally had this request. So I'm going to change the background and quote from that essay. So I said then, about 2 decades ago, that a search in the manifest showed no Pitler family, nor did a typical Ellis Island name search. And I went through that manifest looking without success for people with similar names, with no luck. But I didn't believe that in the 1920s there would be missing manifests. For one thing, as a zoologist, which I am, and a little bit of humor here, I didn't see any characteristic rat tracks or nibblings or stains on the manifest pages of the Mauritania. So I kept trying 3 or 4 separate attempts. Obviously, the next step is to find out more about the family. And what you do is, what's the U.S. Census closest to the arrival of the ship? And that would be the 1930 U.S. Census. So here I am on FamilySearch.org, and I put in Lillian Pitler. I don't know where she is. I'm not doing exact searches here. And I find there are 10 results possible, and it's actually the second one that proved to be the one that had the family. How do I know that? Because when you look at this, and you can see that I'm in Chicago, the head of the family is Sam Pitler, and there indeed is Pearl, Abe, Morris, and Lillian. Bingo! So I got the right people. Based on probability, this is the family in Chicago. Now, if we look closely about this, what do you notice about their age? So I'm looking at the age column of the 4 of them. I'm mostly interested, of course, in Pearl and the kids. So actually 5 ages there. Well, did you catch that the children are out of order based on their ages? The oldest is the sister with 2 younger brothers. And actually, the Lillian is the oldest one, and she should have been farther up. So the census enumerator wasn't really very accurate. In fact, you can see he even got the sex of the people wrong the first time, and that had to be rechanged. Okay, so now let's look a little bit further on this, and let's look at the column on citizenship and when the year of immigration to the United States. And if you look at that, what do you notice about the year of immigration? Now, typically, in those days, the husband would come first, would earn enough money and to bring the rest of his family. And there's probably a little war going on and so it took him 7 years, looks like, to bring in the family. Pearl, the mother, and the 3 children all show they came in 1921, not in 1922, with the Cheskis. Well, maybe she doesn't have the manifest. So it's time to use the one-step Ellis Island utility, which I'm showing you there. It's the gold form, very, very good form to use. I'll give you some hints about that. So here we are on the one-step gold form. There's lots of things you can enter. There's lots of variability, like last name starts with, sounds like, is phonetically. Now the trick is when you see all these searches, not to use too many of them. Try and use the least amount that you can. For instance, there's a whole section on ethnicity. But, I don't know whether this person might be Jewish. Person might actually put down the name of the country, etc. Might be better not to check off an ethnicity. And then there are all sorts of choices for actually seeing the results. And that's important because that may influence your next steps. Show that up in more detail. Okay, so let's look at first and last name entries. So who and what are we looking for exactly? How are we going to define this? Well, remember, the researcher indicated she tried many searches. It's unlikely that a name like Lillian, which is really an American-sounding name, would be on the ship manifest. Also, the last name was probably misspelled or mistranscribed, or is a European name later shortened to Pitler. So, what about the first name? Well, I'm going to ignore that. I don't think that's going to give you much good results. Now, about last name, and this is again from the solution that I put online. I had tried various combinations of Pitler and search on first name Abe only. So I did Abe, I thought might be comparable on the sheet. No luck. I reasoned that the way to find the family is to find the pattern. The pattern. A family where there are 3 children, the oldest is a female, and age is about, if in 1921, based on 1930, census, 10, 9, and 8. So I asked the Morse site for any person age 6 through 12. So I added 2 years on either side, just to be careful, with the last name starting with PIT, coming to the U.S. in 1921 to 1922, and actually I would have made it 1920 to 1923. I always like to put a year or 2 on either side to produce a reasonable number of hits. So I'm going to put down starts with or is PIT. And just to give you some feeling for choices here, if I put down starts with or is Pitler, there are 25 hits, none of them are who I want. If I put down sounds like Pitler using the gold form, there are 10,000 plus hits. None of them are who I'm looking for. If I use the phonetically, basically I think it's a type of soundex, there are over 7,000 hits. None of them are who I'm looking for. If I use the starts with Pit, there are almost 13,000, and I do have the people there. That's a successful search. If I started with PI, of course you know how many hits I get, 3.1429. Little mathematical humor there. So if I start with PI, I get almost 190,000 hits, and yes, they're involved on that. Using Pearl, and then the last name starts with P, there are 107 people. No, I don't find them there. Getting back to what I did, the year of arrival, you pick these things, 1921 and 1922. The age of arrival is between 6 and 12 years of age. And I don't have to use the year of birth because, the age of arrival compensates for that. And I get 47 names. 47 names. That's pretty small. Now just remember, there are no adults on this list since I only asked for children between specific ages. Okay, looking on the 47 hits for 3 PIT children traveling together, oldest child is a female, rest male. And I could set up the results so I can see this. And there are 5 families. 5 families. The first family here is interesting because it looks very much like they are doubled in terms of the results. But I can exclude these anyway because there are 3 males. There's no female in this family. Why is it doubled? Well, it's doubled because they did not sail on one of the ships. For some reason, they did not go on that voyage. Maybe one of the kids got sick or something like that, and it's crossed off. So for the Ellis Island Index, usually there are 2 separate sailings there. They're not on the first sailing. For something like Ancestry.com index, that's usually for 1 ship. The person or persons were held in detention, which is separately indexed and also on a regular manifest page. Okay, let's look at the second family. What do you think? Well, the second family, the male is, first of all, there are 4 kids. There should only be 3, unless maybe by 1930 one of them had died. If the oldest, in fact, died, who's a male, then we would get a female, male order. But we can assume that, no, I don't think that's probably going to work. The third and fourth families we can exclude. The ones on the bottom are all male kids. Then the ones, the third family have 2 females and 1 male. Now, it's sometimes possible you see mistaken sex on the manifest, so it's not absolute. And finally, the fifth family. Well, that looks promising. There is an older female, and then 2 males, 9, 8. Well, it would have been nice to see 7 maybe, but the names are different. Golda, Moshe, Moram. And in my my essay, I said their names don't look like Lillian, Abe, and Morris. Well, maybe Morris is close, but I'll go with patterns until the facts absolutely exclude possibilities. The next step is to find the ship manifest, either this transcription or then the actual manifest. You always want to see the actual manifest. And here now I see for the Carmania that the mother is a person by the name of Burla Pitter. Well, it doesn't look like Pearl. And looking at the text manifest on the Ellis Island site for these children, I saw the mother was Burla Pitter, coming on the SS Carmania on November 1st, 1921, at age of 38. She's a little older than I expected because based upon the 1930 census, she should be 34. So there's something going on there, but that's still not a problem. Close enough for government and genealogy work. So I looked next on the manifest. And the manifest is sheets C2 and line, the Pitters are starting on line 5, C25. Now, blow it up as you can see that a little bit better. It turns out that the columns that were on this manifest are going to help us. So one of the things that was required was the name and complete address of the nearest relative or friend in the country whence alien came. So let's bring that column over here to show you this. And there it is. Bingo. Her brother in the old country is a Seskis, Jehuda Seskis. That's very, very promising. There's also a column in this particular year where they're going to join a relative or friend, and if so, what relative or friend and his name and complete address. And guess what that shows? It shows a husband, Sam Potler, in Chicago, Illinois. Bingo, bingo. Did you notice that Burla and children have an X on the first column? That means they were held at Ellis Island in detention, and these lists were scanned with the manifest starting around 1906. And so here is the record of detained people on that ship. If we go down on line 64, look at that. All sorts of interesting things. First of all, she's not Burla, she's Perla. And 3 children. The children's names will not be shown. It will only be the head of the family. And C25, there is where they are located. So if that was a degraded sheet and they were on the detention, I could go to C25 and then I can figure out what's going on. And she was detained because she didn't have enough money to get to Chicago. It says to telephone money. And who picked her up? Actually picked her up? Well, you can see. It says husband, Sam Pitler, in Chicago, from Chicago, Illinois. Oh my goodness, did Ellis Island change Burla's name? Is that possible? You know that I have an interest in the name change belief. Well, it turns out that I can look up, there's another list which is actually concurrent with the ship manifest. And I go into this in some of my other YouTubes. And these were book indexes. And what a book index is a list of the people on that ship and where they are located on the sheets. And when I do this, the scans are on Family Search. If I do this, I see the family. And she's Perla. She's not Burla. So Burla may have been some sort of typo done, but on the ship, when this ship index was created in 1921, that they probably got the name correctly. And Perla is a good common Jewish female name for pearl. No, I don't think they changed her name. After I posted this, I got this from the original researcher who asked the question. And she said, first and foremost, I want to thank you so very much for all your time and research on my behalf. It was a cousin on the Cheskis side of the family who said Pearl and the children came with other Cheskises on the Mauritania. Regarding the rats eating manifest pages, my husband and I got that tidbit of information from one of the librarians at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. I would definitely like to believe this information to be an error. And I'm thinking, perhaps those people had a sense of humor not appreciated. Now I'm going to show you, since I have this example, another underused way of finding people that are missing from the manifest. And that's using the names of people they're going to or leaving from that you just saw. So here I am on FamilySearch.org. You'll see the opening search format. Ignore that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to press the search. And when I press the search, it opens up a new blank input search form. I'm going to ignore the top. I'm going to ignore the top. And down there where it says add family member, I'm going to add an other person. And I'm going to put down Cheskis there. And when I press search, it tells me there's no results. Well, remember, they're not Cheskis. They're Zeskis with a Z. So if I put down Zeskis there with an exact search, that's the only thing I'm putting down here, and press search, I find a number of people on the New York passenger arrivals list who were either going to a Cheskis or left behind one in the old country. There are 39 of these records. And if I go down the list, I see Burla, Golda, Morum, etc. And that would, jump off the page for me. So if you can find someone, this is some generic ideas. Do not assume everyone came through New York. Family law is often wrong. You can find the naturalization papers. Just be careful, because if the ship came in before June 29, 1906, no one checks the accuracy of the ship information, and it's sometimes wrong, both the ship name and the arrival date. Put more eyes on your documents. Relax your assumptions about surname spelling. Keep an open mind. Try to find the children. Enter a range of values. Children ages are often more accurate than the adults. Try different indexes. Reassess your strategies. Persistence yields results. And two more things that I found from this reference on the bottom, that Sally says, those who cannot be found may be persons traveling under assumed name, including children traveling with relatives under another family name. They could have worked on the ship, but jumped ship at the U.S. port prior to May 1917, thus leaving no trace they were ever on that ship. So this has been another of my JDW talks. I have YouTube talks on genealogy topics like census resources and Ellis Island immigration. I have enough material perhaps for 2 more short Ellis Island talks. Natural history topics, virtual birding field trips, birding optics, Southern California birds, especially in Orange County, and novelty zithers and biology songs. So I hope you enjoyed that little methodology of trying to find people on the Ellis Island Manifest, especially if you're having difficulty. Have fun. Enjoy your hobbies.